Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Weekend of Frivolity, the Broiler Chicken Show. Buck, 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 buck. Anyway, hello, everyone. These are always fun adventures on the weekend. Brian sits in front of his computer. He hits the record button, and then who knows what the hell's going to come out the other side. But let's make sure if YouTube's working. Computer. He hits the record. It is. I see there's a few people over there on YouTube. Because I doubt there's going to be too many new quote-unquote trades to talk about here today. This is a very challenging market state we're in right at the moment. I actually put the request out to the community. What the hell should we talk about today? We got back. I got back comments like the level oneers are just going through learning how to use MACD histogram. So we might take a look at what a MACD histogram divergence looks like. Well, that could be something we could look at. Some people were asking us whether we should take a look at some toilet paper stocks. I suppose Kimberly-Clark would probably. I think, and I even think I saw that. It's so funny. Like even in this market, I was sitting in the lounge last night, and man, did I ever have a crazy night last night. One of the TRI OGs had a house party. But these young guys, they have their party in the middle of the night, so they didn't start it till like 10, 11 o'clock. So for some stupid reason, I was like, oh yeah, I'll just walk over to Andrew's place. And I literally got lost in the hills of Burnaby last night, and it was freezing cold. And I was walking, and after an hour trying to figure out where the hell I was, I couldn't figure out what is it. I just said, fuck it, and I went home. So I hope Shane and Andrew, we're probably not going to see them today. They're probably still partying. But my apologies if you watch this later. I tried. I even sent Andrew a message. I tried and I gave up because I'm an old man and I get confused early late at night walking around the hills of Burnaby. That was so bizarre. But anyway, nonetheless, it is what it is. And I think, if anything, it's a testament to this crazy year. But the point I was trying to make was, after I came back and I was looking at, it's fun to watch these kind of sites. Let's see which one. Where the hell is it? I think it's this page. I like to just watch these guys. It's kind of fun. I mean, if you want something to do. I like this website, coin360.com, where they give you a nice market carpet. And you just peruse through and just looking at symbols and which ones are popping and which ones are hopping and all that. And, it's just weird. I mean, what I've noticed is this GTO, Gifto. I asked in the lounge, does anybody know about the fundamentals of this thing? And we're like, man, it's a sketchy story at best. Bazillion coins out. But what I thought was really interesting last night, we haven't seen this in a while, of course, because Trex has been on the outs and probably under massive regulatory scrutiny for the past year or two. But they've kind of woken up a little bit, and they're really promoting, commission-free trading and all that kind of crap. And I noticed last night when I pulled this symbol up that the bots are back at work. So here's a really good example where the bots, literally, they generated a double here overnight on this little coin. If you weren't watching it, there's no way in hell you would have ever seen it. But I posted this last night. Hey, the bots are back alive on Trex. And sure enough, they popped this thing for a nice double overnight. So, it is that type of market state. There are going to be these little gems just sort of perking around the corner. But you'd have to be the type of person that, is watching these kind of screens and looking at every single symbol. And really all it was I just happened to see it. I pulled up the chart. I saw the double bottom, went over to Trex, just sort of got a gauge. And a really good analogy on Trex is when you start seeing 500 coins, 500 coins, 500 coins, 500 coins. Now, why on earth would you get that sort of very consistent buy program kicking in, and that's the hallmark of the bots? So, yeah, it's just interesting commentary to sort of start the day. There are little names popping up, and of course, if you see W's and you see volume pouring in, and then you pop on over to the exchange page and you see the bots working away, well, opportunity is now here. How the spiel goes. No doubt about it. I'm sure the crypto kids are not feeling too happy about 5,000, and actually it's kind of funny. I saw a lot of jokes and stuff, there's your Bitcoin halvening. The price just fell in half. The problem here with Bitcoin, and this is the argument that I've made about all of these kind of cryptocurrency assets, is what the hell is value? How do you actually figure out what the intrinsic value of one of these coins? And I don't even know whether coin was the right word. If anything, that almost set the community up for failure when they went down that naming route. But what is one of these Bitcoins actually worth? And I've made the argument all along that the one good part about crypto is that I think that there is actually a way to come up with value for a Bitcoin. One of these get the fuck out coin kind of things. I don't know. This is total speculation central. Is there any discernible value difference between this coin trading at 100 sats versus 300 sats? Probably not. So I don't think you can really use, and especially if it's like tokens and stuff like that, you can't really use that kind of value metric on these kind of names. But something like a Bitcoin, we've made the argument, especially like the big three, we've made the argument repeatedly that and this, it's going to sound like a broken record, and I'm sorry. This is why I was kind of polling the community. What the hell should we talk about today? Because I would imagine to a certain degree there's probably a lot of people that go, fuck, this guy just keeps saying the same damn thing week in, week out. It's just a rinse, it's the same message over and over. But, we did this poll, and this was through the meltdown here last year when we were trying to find some sort of bottom. Where the hell's the bottom? And we did a poll on the site, and this one gentleman, actually it was kind of cool. He even commented on the video after I talked about this that he still felt that his research from this time last year was still correct. I don't know whether you use these kind of metrics or electricity in your part of the world, 10 cents an hour. I know a lot of people sort of humming and hawing over that number. I will say, just simply put, it did make sense to me that we were, $2,000-$3,000 for cost of Bitcoins. Because remember, McAfee, and I don't even know whether you guys even remember that, but McAfee back well before this blow off top, he try saying that 10 times fast. He publicly came out and said that his cost of production way back here in 2017, 2016 was 1,000. So, having an event later on, maybe that's up to 2,000-3,000. Did he lowball that number because he's such a, can you trust anything that guy says? I don't know. So, if we can make the argument 2,000-3,000 in that area, maybe as high as 4,000, did it make sense that Bitcoin actually puts in its bottom in and around that area? I think so. Also, too, I think it's a good rule of thumb. If you ever see an asset fall by 80% of its rally peak, we're probably starting areas where you can start thinking about the blow-off fervor top is gone. So, I don't know if that's pretending to price action now. What I do like is the idea that as of this halvening event, this number basically has to double. So, if we can make the argument to 3,000 back here, then that means we can make the argument for 5,000, 6,000. Well, I guess 3,000 would be 6,000 as of basically 2 or 3 months from now. So I might make the argument, yield Bitcoin's going on sale. And the irony of it all is that this is the kind of business when shit goes on sale, nobody wants to buy. I used to follow a guy named Louis Rukeyser closely, and he used to always say that joke week after week after week. This is the only business when stuff goes on sale, nobody wants to buy. The key here, of course, is, some people would think 13,000 down to 7,000. Oh, it just went on sale. But this is where we have to go back to that what the hell is value in one of these kind of things. And really, when it comes to Bitcoin, I think value is that cost of production thinking. Also, too, hopefully what you see here is this green box here is a reload zone off of the massive range, right? The entire range. Green zones are generally friendly areas. They're generally places where you want to be thinking about bottoms coming in. There's no guarantees in this business, that's for damn sure. And then if we look at the past year's price action, gee whiz, I guess that's this one up here. That's this box. So now we're starting to get like overlapping reload zones. This, as risk takers go, this is actually, ironically enough, the area where I think you want to take a risk. The sad part about it, of course, is everybody comes in up top here, right? And they don't know what they're doing, and they don't realize how risky this asset is to come in and buy this. I might make the argument that a lot of the price risk has actually been removed from the market. And we're starting to get back down into areas where people can actually make a realistic argument. It's not here yet, right? That's on the other side of the event. But I wouldn't be surprised. Usually the coin and these cryptocurrencies, they like to rally about a month or so ahead of their halving events. So believe it or not, and I've been squawking at length about this crazy planetary conjuncture coming up with Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, which doesn't happen very often. I think the last time it happened in human history was about 1900 BC, when we had this all sort of perfect storm of events. And I was even asking on the YouTube page, has anything in human history happened around that 1900 BC? And it turns out that people were saying that the city of Babylon just so happened to be founded right around exactly that date. So, ironically enough, if we look back in human history 1,000 years from now, my hunch is we're probably going to see this as some sort of massive catalyst pivot that takes us from one sort of age into another. It's almost impossible to see that when you're on the ground and we're just living our lives day to day. It's kind of like, it's interesting when you look back in human history at sort of the major events. Think about like the Christianity, right? I mean, when Jesus was alive, did any of those people have any idea what was going to happen 1,000, 2,000 years down the road following this guy's life? I doubt it. But that's sort of the kind of transition window that we're in. We probably won't even be able to see it when we're down in the trenches here. But if we step back, in long-term human history, my hunch is this is a pretty important pivot for this species. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. And if any of you are immortal, then please let me know what happens. I, of course, won't be around for too much more longer. So, there's the big picture message. It's I find it really amusing how we were talking about that Silk Road government, U.S. government auction of coins, and how it was probably in the best interest of the higher ups to try and make sure this market was relatively firm through that. so they could get the best price possible for their coins. I think that's exactly what happened here. And I guess it's absolutely shocking the way the prices just absolutely collapsed on the other side of that. Frankly speaking, and I had been putting tweets and messages and stuff, that if this had been a repeat of the 2015-2016 bottom, we would have come straight down into 61.8 and then just taken off like a rocket. Or, stabbed into 61.8, gone sideways and started to work our way higher. That's what I was sort of hoping for, hopium, if you will. And we were painting things like inverted head and shoulders. I don't know whether you guys remember that. Something along the lines like that. Hoping that we were going to get that kind of repeat performance this year. Of course, history never repeats itself. It often rhymes, but it doesn't repeat itself. Long and short of it here, that head and shoulder thesis, and I was even sort of joking with TRIOGers going, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. We didn't have any indicator confirmation that a bottom was coming in here, and of course, no W's anywhere in sight, so as a result, sorry, head and shoulders, you're out of here. Whoops. Let's see if I hit the right button. Did I just eject somebody from the call? I think I hit the wrong button there. Did I just kick Kevin out? No, there he is. He's still here. Okay. That's funny. All right, so head and shoulder, inverted head and shoulders. See you later. Not there now. Hey, bud. Kevin and I do a. It was funny, and this is a really good. Thank you, Will. Appreciate that. This is a really good testament to why I need a co-host for these videos. When I'm doing these broiler chicken shows on my own, guys, everybody, please understand, I'm running this on my own. I might blow the video up halfway through. You've seen some of these videos are hilarious. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I'll try my best. But anyway, Kevin, of course, the Duke of Albuquerque, the Kavarkinator himself. Let's see if I can show you a picture of Kevin. I tell you, this guy's one badass dude, but I carry his picture in my wallet, and I show it to all the girls because they really get impressed by guys like this, but I can never find it when I'm... All right, there is Kavarkinator himself. He's one badass dude, eh? Yeah. Shark Toshi. Duke of Roswell. The Duke of Roswell. That's great. Perfect. You've been promoted. You got a promotion. Albuquerque, to hell with Albuquerque. He's getting the land of Roswell. Anyway, sorry, off topic. Oh, I see people already leaving the meeting. Sorry, Christian, if you watch this later. Didn't mean to insult you. Anyway, so Mr. Kavarkinator, he and I do a show through the week together, and he's sort of my backup. But it was funny because halfway through the show, I started going down the vortex, the tunnel of, has Trump got COVID? And Kevin's like, slow down. Don't say it. So if you watched that on Friday, I thought that was hilarious. So thank you, Kevin, keeping me honest there. So, from what I understand, all the ladies in the audience, you can breathe a huge sigh of relief. It turns out that Mr. Trump tested negative for COVID, so you still got a chance, ladies. Anyway, back to our story here. Actually, I got to sneeze, so hold on a second. So now that's quality YouTube broadcasting where you get to listen to the guy ranting here, sneeze and blow his schnoz. Oh, thank you, Oliver. Hey, I got even a bless you out of that. Let's see. Hey, Oscar. Man, Will, you think I'm good. You should pay attention to the Riviera brothers down there out of Left My Wallet in El Segundo. Yeah, I know. I'm not going to touch that one, Khalid. He tested negative for COVID. We're just going to leave it at that for now. Oh, thank you, Long Range Crypto. Oh yeah. But every time I go down that road, B2, I always end up getting myself into trouble, and people, good thing, no, you guys are awesome. And actually, I haven't seen your brother. I hope he's doing well. Say hi to Daniel for me if you can, Oscar. Every time I go down that road, B2, I always end up getting myself in trouble. So if you enjoy the offering, if you enjoy here, I've been blabbing away for 5-10 minutes. Have I actually said anything? I don't even know. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring Colleen's bell, all that talk. I appreciate it. I'm not even quite sure what even any of that stuff does. I mean, keep in mind, we do this all for free. We don't get any remuneration or anything from Google, so I think it just makes them more money than TRI. But really, the bottom line, and like somebody who says, like Will there, very impressed with your guidance after watching for a few months. Really, my suggestion is the absolute best thing you can possibly do is just spread the word, right? We're doing this for free. I'm not asking for any money out of this. I don't give a shit. What I'm trying to do is make a positive difference in this world. I don't know whether it's going to work or not, but I sure hope so. And the absolute best thing that you can do, Will, is just tell a friend. Hey, listen to this guy. He's kind of weird and he goes off on funny tangents, but every once in a while he drops you a nugget or two. And if you can write this stuff down as you're sort of listening to me rant away, it can save you. So each one, teach one. Okay, that's kind of cool. Okay, so what I was going on about this, I was trying to get there, but unfortunately I got derailed myself, is I was super impressed with a lot of TRI OGers. I saw a lot of people posting this. And I talked about it in the free Friday video that I did for the public. What do we call that? The Daily Brief Recap, where actually some really sharp TRIers were actually going in and buying against those lows. And, toot Kvarkinator's horn, because I think he's an absolutely stand-up gentleman. And he could very easily start his own advisory service. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was actually... well, anyway, we won't go there. He told me that he had actually stepped in and bought a little bit against this original W. Gotta tell you, like I even said in the Friday video, that looks to me like a trader's trade. You have no idea whether these lows are going to hold, but, these W's, this is a great analogy of na kind of conversation. If I'm going to risk my money in the, my hard-earned money in the marketplace, where should I take my shots? We had been musing about this inverted head and shoulders and whether we were actually going to see a turn come in here. And I can understand the exact same logic. Somebody said, well, hey, I came in and I bought against these and I got blown out. So fuck you and your W's. But you just have to understand that is a trader's life. It's really that simple. And we have an old expression in the market. The people that take the higher stress trades, they are going to make more money if they're right. It just makes sense. The guys that take the higher the anxiety trades, they should get paid commensurately if they're right. So this is an example of, like I said, a trader's trade, just having your order working against this original bottom. It's a higher anxiety trade. You don't have indicator confirmation. You don't have a W. But if this does, and the irony of it all is what probably will happen if this is the lows, is it's probably going to go along and do something like that. So what ends up happening is the shark traders, Dukes of Roswell, they will step in. This is a higher stress trade, and just like the guys who stepped in and bought against this W, it's a higher stress trade, and yep, they were proved wrong. Get the fuck out. Here's another one of those examples where you are going to hear some people on YouTube and stuff going, hey man, I picked the bottom, look at me, I'm so smart, woohoo! But really, it's just a function of building your plan, understanding what type of trader you are and what kind of risk you can handle. If you're like, well, you know what? I like W's and I know that 60, 70% of the time they work, so I'm just going to place my stink bid at the W level. And if this low gets broken out, I can walk away. I'll tell you, those kind of trades, they can produce these insane, and actually I think this is actually a very manufactured trade. Notice that it bounced back to the 50% level is exactly 2-1. That doesn't happen by accident, folks. Usually when I see that these numbers are this crisp, that tells me that this was a manufactured trade. So we'll see how it goes, but the point being that the guy that steps in against this, which doesn't have indicator confirmation, it's just purely a level, this is going to be a higher anxiety trade, no doubt about it. It's going to be tough. But at the same time, too, those people that take the higher anxiety trades, I'm just going to simply risk against those lows. If we ratchet back up here and we're rocking and rolling, those guys look like absolute geniuses. Oh my God, the guy's so smart. Wow, gee whiz, I want to buy his newsletter, blah, blah, blah. The way I would look at this right now is, like I said, very high anxiety. And, you know, if you have some miles under your tires, like what I notice at TRI is, of course, you know, our level 1 program, we have to change the record. You know, we have to stop buying up markets. Force yourself to start now buying down markets. That in itself, holy crap, is that hard to teach people? Then understanding that these, you know, somebody's new to trading, or maybe they've been losing a bunch of money and they want to try and get on the right sort of track, and they are extremely anxiety ridden. Would I suggest a trade like this to a new person to trading? No way. Way too stressful. I mean, that's like high octane. That's this guy, right? You got to be a damn good trader to ride a bike like that. And keep your helmet and keep your crown on at the same time going down the highway. You got to be one badass dude. So, you know, you are going to hear people on YouTube and stuff talking about, oh, I totally picked the bottom and look at me and I'm so awesome. But please understand, this is a very high stress, high octane trade. And like, you know, if you did the same trade against here, you had to have discipline and say, fuck it, I was wrong, get me the hell out of there, right? And sure enough, boom, 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 down she goes. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But the point that I would make is that for our level 1ers, for example, and actually this was a conversation that we had in the lounge just before getting going. For those people that are relatively new to trading, I would suggest that you just slow down. Don't try and be this trader here today. And as you can see, this trader here, in fact, you can even see they got filled on this day here. So for a couple of days, they were feeling pretty good. Okay, well, you know, I'm not doing too bad. And then, okay, fuck you, I was wrong. And of course, you know, that kind of trader, they have to be able to act, right? And if your plan is, I'm going to risk against this W and I'm going to take the Wyckoff check, this day told that person they were wrong. And I wouldn't even be surprised if the guy, you know, professional trader that took this, get out, I bet they probably strapped another position on right back here, and it's rinse and repeat. I'm a trader, trader's life. For newer people to trading, I strongly suggest that we follow this simple model that I stumbled upon years and years and years ago. Where what we're simply going to do is we're not even really going to think about what the trend of markets is. We're just simply going to ask, is there a wide enough trading range that if we do somehow bottom at the bottom end of the range and work our way back up to a very natural 50% retracement, can I do things like hunt market structure so that if I do buy the W and risk against the bottom And I force myself to stay in the trade until we have that 50% retracement. Is this box right here going to be bigger than this box right here? And ideally for students, I'd like this box to be twice the size of this box. The irony of that kind of trading approach is that you don't even really give a shit about the overall trend. What you're really looking for is just simple volatility. Oh, thanks, Rob. You like that? Oh, is that a dirty drawing? It's not so bad. I don't see any boobies or any penises or anything. Yeah. I'm not going to use my imagination. We'll just try and keep this clean. But, and actually, I think this is actually a really good example. We still have a couple weeks until the end of the month. And there is a fairly big celestial event that happens this first weekend of April. I find it fascinating that, I don't know whether you guys have noticed in the public, but basically all of Europe and now it looks like a good chunk of North America, society has just said we are shutting down until April. Isn't that incredible? I find that absolutely fascinating. You can't write shit better than this. And the fact that it lines up so perfectly with that massive celestial event, it's just if I had said 2 or 3 years ago, oh yeah, our whole society is going to shut down on this Jupiter-Saturn cross, people would have said, you're crazy. Let's lock that guy up. And here we are. It's happening right in front of our fucking eyes. It's stunning. So, I guess what I'm trying to say here is I'm not convinced that this is the low. And actually, if we look at this previous low, this is actually what I want to see for us to actually see that 3-step setup that I teach the level 1ers. It's a very basic way to look at the market. But I'll tell you, I don't know whether you're here to be a Bitcoin fan or an XRP fan, whether you're here to own Apple because that's the sexy stock, or I want to own Tesla because Tesla's rule the world. This conversation I'm having you now is about making money from trading. I don't even give a shit about what the asset is. What I'm talking about is trading setups. So, here's a good example, and we can go back to the last dumpage. And you'll notice that probably this is the best example right here. Notice that we, panic dumped. Then we rallied away. Then notice price sort of slowly melted down. And I don't know whether we made a new low here, did we? 64.25. 65, yeah. So we made a new low in price. And do we have any level 1ers here on the call here? I think I saw 1 or 2 of you. Where is that person that was speaking specifically? Miguel. I don't know whether you're still here. Eddie. I don't know whether you're still here. Eddie, you even mentioned the MACD. I don't know whether you guys are still here. Are you still here? No? Eddie, there's Eddie. Yeah, okay, cool. So, can you see, Eddie, how if we sort of zoom this in here? Price made a lower low, right? And this is exactly what you guys just did, right? So, price made a lower low. And yet, if we look at our MACD histogram, can you see how the histogram did not make a lower low? So this in itself, this is actually a huge tell. Because what this is really saying is, yes, price is cascading lower, and yes, we just made a lower low, and, M's and W's, show me new high and I'll show you a buy, show me new low and I'll show you a ho, that kind of talk, right? The public, of course, sees the new lows, and, oh, Bitcoin's falling apart, right? But what you don't realize is actually price is actually a lot stronger than what price is leading you to believe. This divergence, and through this event and even right through here. Let's see if I can show that a little bit better. Like that. Through here and all this, yes, it was a nice rally off the lows, which sort of stopped the slide and turned it back up. But this through here, at best, all we can say is that this is potentially divergent. And this is where actually a lot of people fail with divergences. I noticed in recent public offerings and stuff, huge debates going on in the comments about this divergence working and that divergence not working. Really, I don't think it's a good idea to try and teach yourself or learn through the comments on these YouTube pages. That's really why I built the whole damn site in the school, right? You really want to learn how to do this correctly. Just get in the school. And really just get on this site. I mean, the great part about TRI is you pop into the lounge and you go, hey, can somebody try and help me understand divergence? And you'll have 20 people all jump out and go, oh, yeah, sure, I'll help. I mean, these people, they're such good people. I love that about these people. They're beautiful people. And you know what? Thank you, JoJo. I'll just say this to the universe, and I can feel the chills. Thank you so much. Thank you, Joby. Joby was a great site member who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. I think about him all the time. John Cole, another site member, has passed away. I think about these people all the time, and I really know that they're rooting for us on the other side. So, point being that a lot of people fall into a trap where here, say like at this point right here, they're like, all right, divergence, but actually that's not true. It's only potential, because I have seen a lot of times where the market will come up, it'll break down, it won't go through this low, and you're like, divergence. Then the market will actually go and make a new M here and not go through this high and then break back down through that low, and it's more down. But that didn't happen here, did it? So it turns out that at this point where we break this high, this is actually where we can say, all right, we are now officially in bull divergence. And the interesting thing is you can see it just barely confirmed right there. But nonetheless, what I want to see are those W's. And then interesting, you notice this dump here, another higher low. So this would be a pretty good example of, okay, we've come into location. Now we have to go down and look at our indicators and see if this thing is actually saying, you know what, I'm actually a lot stronger than what you think I am, i.e. divergence. And then at this point, that's this rally right here, at this point, now we can start going, all right, do we have any W's to work with? All right, here comes that W. And so that's why we write that as the buy signal right there. And, on balance, it was a pretty darn good trade. Translated into a nice, 40-50% rally? Not bad. I mean, certainly nothing to complain about, that's for sure. And, the sad part about it is I think we did the exact opposite up top. So, Eddie, first and foremost, can you see the bullish divergence that confirmed right here? Question number one, where's Eddie? Are you still on the call here? Yes. Okay, good. Do you see that three-step process where we're going to say, just using this chart, actually, we could probably use that. Let's just use this one. Let's see, reload zone. There we go. So it was at or below reload zone. So we have trade location. All right. We are at or below reload zones. We have confirmed divergence. Came on this move here. So now it's got to go hunt a W. Live with the hiccups. Live with the results. Now, if we go the other direction, we never did get to reload short zones, which is a little disappointing. Maybe that might even be a tell. I gotta tell you, this rally here, to me this looks suspicious, right? Because I think all that did was just a 50% retracement. Yeah, doink. Classic GAN, WD GAN up the butt. I suppose if you were a bear and you were thinking about all of these highs, you might have drawn like reload zones against maybe that high. This is a tough one. It's obviously open to interpretation. There, maybe against that high. There. So, and then also too, I think we talked lots about this. This was the original failure of this entire range. See, up, down, lots of M's, right? So that was going to be a pretty stiff brick wall anyway. And sure enough, bang. Point here is this is a tough one trade location wise. Like I said, I would have preferred that it come in a little bit higher up top here, but nonetheless, it is what it is. Had that 18th event. I was humming and hawing with you guys. Oh my goodness, I don't like this. Are we going to get a really sharp drop here following this? Or do we just trickle our way lower? Turns out it was trickle. It wasn't sharp drop. If anything, I like the fact that we finally got this sharp drop, because usually what ends up happening in markets is they'll start trending, and the beginnings of the trend, it looks like this, right? And this is the grinder, where as long as it keeps making higher highs and higher lows, it's just grinding. Then the end of the move, it goes parabolic. Everybody remember Bitcoin 20 grand, right? So, and then this also works exact opposite. So, I remember when I used to trade crude, the one thing we absolutely hated, especially if you were bullish or something, is if you get like a grinding lower market like this, because the trend is still down, but there's no volatility. So as a result, a trader, maybe you're like short from that M failure, and you notice you're like, I'm in the money, I'm losing money, I'm in the money, I'm losing money, I'm in the money, I'm losing money, I'm in the money. Oh, Jesus, it just drives you crazy. And that's, that's sort of like this shit, right? And then at the end of the move, right, things go, and we'll just do the same thing, right? Grind. And then the end of the move, boom, market goes parabolic. So if anything, in a weird sort of way, actually, this is a good sign, because that's typically the end of the move. See, notice this one here. Big, market's grinding its way lower, grind. Big dump, end of the move, and what do? We have to go sideways now for the next little while. So, if anything, it's actually, in my opinion, it's kind of good that we've got this big dump. And, of course, I put out tweets and stuff on these kind of events. What do you think the sentiment in the space is? And ironically enough, you can almost set your watch to crypto bottoming if you just simply look for this. It's ridiculous how consistent this is. But where are we here? This guy. Well, seems like a handsome gentleman. He's got he's easily got 30, 40, 50 years of market experience behind him. He knows what he's doing in the market, doesn't he? I'm being facetious now. I'm sorry if this is your best friend. Point of the matter here is these very young gentlemen who don't have a heck of a lot of experience behind them, they've made audacious calls in the market, and that's what ends up happening in capitalism. I was joking in the lounge about this yesterday. Is usually what happens in capitalism is the system rewards the risk takers. So kind of like what I was showing you with Kavarkinator. The risk taker who comes in and buys this structural tag here, if he's right, he's going to look like a genius. He's going to sell lots of subscriptions. Everybody's going to think he walks on water, and wonderful. However, of course, if he goes and buys here and it doesn't work and the market works lower, he turns out to be this gentleman. And it's all Beer Flu's fault, and it's not my fault. Crypto's dead, and of course his fund is wiped out, and all his investors are destroyed, blah, 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 blah. Ironically enough, this is actually just so par for the course for capitalism. It's kind of sad. But one thing I do like about this, and it's a little bit sad commentary. Keep in mind, half of what I do is I just simply just sort of watch the environment. If everybody and their brother is bullish, maybe I ought to cool my jets. If everybody and their brother is bearish, what do you think we ought to be thinking? So I'm seeing a lot of this kind of stuff. And from what I understand, this gentleman is very quite famous for doing up these videos. But in essence, this is the sentiment within the space right now. And ironically enough, actually, I would actually consider this as a relatively good sign. And people were making, joking, the honk honk and stuff on his videos. The sad part about it, of course, is, nobody likes that, right? Well, no, because I might even argue a guy like Richard Hart, he might actually be thinking, hey, you know what? They're bringing price back down, coming into a buying window. So somebody was saying just waiting for Richard Hart. I think Richard's pretty smart. I think he's a pretty smart cookie. And he knew that when those 38.2s, because, if you're a half-decent trader, you'll know this shit. And the reason why he started crying and got all upset was because, you guys tell me, you've been around this space long enough. What letter of the alphabet do you see up here? Are these W's or these M's? And I think he saw these M's and he went, oh, fuck, the party's over. So ironically enough, I was kind of joking with him, where I was, I was sort of saying, how's Richard feeling? And he tweeted back, I'm getting there. I said, we'll know that crypto's a bull when Richard is happy again. And I can understand him thinking, we're getting there. I actually like the idea, and I can't speak for Richard, please. I doubt he's going to watch my silly little video. But by all means, Richard, if you do or somebody tells you about this, please feel free to chime in. Love to have your input. What was fascinating about this, I'd almost love to be able to rewind in history. Can you guys see this harmonic pattern? Let's see, how can I do this? I actually posted this right through this event. Do you guys remember this? This chart, look at this. This spring 2019. We actually drew up this chart way back then. And I remember posting this and saying this is kind of what I thought our path would look like. And people went, you're fucking crazy, man. You're nuts. We're never going to do that. We're going to the moon, man. Fuck you. And I gotta say, man, I'm pretty shocked at how incredibly this pattern is playing itself out, including this point C point that we just had hit here. I gotta tell you, folks, that's pretty damn incredible. Some people were actually posting this, going, Brian, can you please remind yourself that you had actually said that this was going to be our path through all of this? And I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that. That's ridiculous. So here we are, and reload zones within reload zones, cost of production. I could make the argument this isn't a terrible place to actually think about buying some Bitcoins. And the irony of it all is we're looking at the stock market. Is that where this is? Well, the problem here is this is the U.S. election, right? And I got a sneaky suspicion this election, oh boy. Remember, I think I told you guys we have 3 celestial events coming up here. The first, which these are the Havening references. This probably isn't the best chart to show you that off of. But is this the best one to use? I think I have them on here. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe this isn't. No, okay. Well, this was that happening. I know. I beg your pardon. The government auction. Um, this is our first celestial event window, and I like the idea of the market pivoting through here. What it means, everyone, please, and again, I'm just talking out my ass. I mean, fuck, look how bad I was on that goddamn bond trade. Jesus Christ, I totally fucked that up. So, I mean, it's just Brian's opinion you're hearing here. It's nothing more, nothing less. Um, the problem that I have here is that, this is the Ides of March. Do you guys remember? Did anybody watch his videos at the beginning of the year? When we studied the January barometer, everything said we were going to have some sort of dip into the Ides of March. Do you remember that? Wow, that was incredible. So maybe on the free videos, I might take a look at that too. For Monday to Friday kind of stuff, we'll go look at January barometer again. But I guess what I'm thinking here is we do have a big celestial event coming up here the first week of April. We're in the Ides of March right now. What I'm really worried about right here, can we carry January with what? Compare January barometer with what? Can we compare January barometer with the S&P? If you have that chart handy, curious to see how it's been. Yeah, we try to keep these weekend shows just to crypto, Rob. I don't really want to get into stock market talk too much here. So maybe, you know what we should do, Rob? Probably the best thing is can you ask specifically for me to look at that tomorrow in the daily brief? And we'll take a good look at that. Yeah, okay. Give me a Rolf Merrill. Come on, you could do it. You could do it. I know you can.
Yeah. Roar.
Thank you. So that's it. That's the spirit of TRI. That's why I love this place. This guy's been coming on the shows for like years. Oh, you were eating. Well, that's okay. And it's just so beautiful. Looking forward to these kind of people in my life. I tell you, life's short. Money comes and money goes. I mean, hopefully what you see and learn here, and I've tried to tell this to the community this morning. Write this down if you're watching on the YouTube page. There are times in our society to be greedy. There are times to be fearful. Now, in my humble opinion, doing this for 30 friggin' years is not a time to be greedy. You can set your plans, put them in place to plan, to take profits and cash in when the market goes back into those greedy phases. But now, this particular window, this is not the time, in my opinion, to be greedy and looking to buy your Lambos. You just got to go slowly here. I love dollar cost averaging in these kind of in market states, especially if we can get near cost of production on Bitcoin. This is a no-brainer. That, it's interesting in the lounge this morning, we were sort of chatting about sort of big picture stuff. What I could very easily see happen here is, and I don't even know how many of you, because keep in mind, this is before crypto even started. I'd be curious, just on the YouTube page, there's 80 people there sitting watching. How many of you were actually active in the market trading day in, day out in 2006? 2007? Probably not many of you. I mean, I was a full-service broker. I lived that market. I basically lived the same life that I'm living here at TRI day in, day out. Just I did it at a brokerage house from my command post in my office. Should buy my stock, all right, so I can get my broker warrants. What I actually see, and actually I was sharing this. Hey, Bob. So actually, Bob, this should speak to you then. I was sharing with the community today a really, really good interview. And actually, frankly speaking, I was kind of insulted that Bloomberg went and picked up the Wall Street Week moniker It used to be the most beautiful show done by a gentleman by the name of Louis Rukeyser on public television. So it wasn't like anybody was, ramming a big sales pitch down your throat. Now what I see is, these corporations have come in and taken over this concept, and a lot of it is shill. But I was pretty impressed with this conversation. This most recent Wall Street week, of course, when markets go into panic, a lot of these sort of major media kind of shows. I won't play it because YouTube shits their pants if I play other people's videos through these videos. But I thought this was a really, really good episode, and the people that they were talking to are people that were fund managers that one of the guys that they were talking to is BlackRock. I mean, these are pretty big players in the market. So do yourself a favor and go and watch this. I thought this is a really good video. I'll even post it there on the YouTube chat link. That's the video I'm talking about. Hey, BB, I lost site access. Yeah, I know I did. A bunch of people were telling me that level 3ers or veterans and stuff, something weird happened. Julian said he was running around scrambling trying to fix it. So thanks for that, Mark. We are aware that some people got booted. It's crazy, PayPal and all that kind of nonsense, and the .co versus .com business. So my apologies, sir. Julian is aware. If you Mark, do you have me on Twitter? You can always just talk to me directly, DM me on Twitter, and if you don't get fixed up right away, I can harass the boys to get you going. Can you do that for me, bud? All right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So worst case scenario, we'll have you fixed up in the next day or so. Keep in mind, after I do this video, I literally just hop straight in the car and head off to Liam. So I won't be back until this evening. But definitely a priority for you there, bud. Just poke me on Twitter and shit like that, okay? Just to make sure that you're taken care of. Okay, so I gave you that Wall Street Week link. I think it's in your best interest to go watch this. The analogy that I'm hearing, which actually resonates well with me, I like the thinking, is every 10 years, we usually have some sort of recession. I mean, if you go back and look at all your price charts year in, year out, I mean, it's fairly consistent. I tell people usually the market has a recession in years that end in 8s, 9s, 0s, 1s, and 2s. I had sort of convinced myself, which I guess was pretty foolish, but nonetheless I did, that they wouldn't break the market because Mr. Trump was part of the 1% and he was in cahoots with them. They wouldn't break the market ahead of his election. And it was in their best interest to make sure everything just operated smoothly and the economy's fine. He dodged all the scandals, that he would just get reelected. But I get the distinct impression that this has gotten out of control. I don't know whether this particular flu virus is itself the cause, whether it's part of this Jupiter-Saturn-Pluto conjuncture, whether it is simply a function of this old system is just so rickety and it's starting to show its age. But I actually heard from some of those gentlemen that they're starting to see some cracks in the system. That what we just saw over the past week, and really this is more a commentary about not this guy and not really these kind of people. This is more a commentary about this guy to a certain degree, but really more about these people. The system itself, interestingly enough, the banks themselves are actually in a very good position. In 2006, 2007, they had been convinced by the then political leaders to just go out and lend as much money as possible. Everybody in America should be a homeowner. regardless of whether they could actually afford the mortgage or not. The market sucked them into variable rate mortgages that ratcheted higher rates on their refinancing, so much so to the point that people couldn't afford the new rate, and the whole system collapsed. It was really a potion for disaster how everything set itself up. Interesting enough, if you listen to those gentlemen, they keep saying the same thing over and over and over. Well, yeah, Oscar, that's a lot of horse hockey, but anyway, they keep saying the same thing over and over. The problem is not the banks this go round. And I do see a lot of people on TRI and stuff saying, okay, well, when's the housing market going to collapse? And it's exactly the same thing as when I was running around in 2002, 2003. The market was so bad. Obviously in the dot-com blow-up, most of my clients when I was a young broker got destroyed. I had to go get a part-time job to make sure that the bills were paid. I ran the video conference calls for Transport Canada's executive committee. How the fuck I got that job, I have no idea. But anyway, I used to sit and listen, and I had to run the calls, so that meant I had to be in every single one of these meetings with all these bureaucrats, and literally for 2 or 3 years straight, that is the only conversation that they had. When's the next 9/11? I remember sitting there, and people actually, with a completely straight face, said that they thought that Osama bin Laden was going to put on scuba gear and he was going to attach bombs to the cruise ships sitting in Vancouver ports. People, seriously, with a completely straight face, believed that this was going to happen. I mean, it's crazy. And the worst part about it is these people have like budgets of hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, government bureaucrats. And they sit there with a straight face going, okay, so where's the next attack vector coming from? And it's just like, you gotta be kidding me. And of course, did anything ever happen? Of course not. I think the absolute worst thing that followed that, unfortunately, was anyway, we won't go down that rabbit hole. The point here is that that's backwards thinking. And I sat there, ironically enough, as market participants, 17.5-year greed cycles, all that kind of stuff. In essence, I based my entire existence, my whole business, on the idea, what is the future going to look like, not the past. And these government bureaucrats can't break that model. They always think, what was the last crisis, and that's what we have to prepare for going forward. So I find it very interesting that we just had this massive planetary relationship cross. The last fear cycle cross, and actually I was curious if anybody even remembered this on the site. Not many people did. I asked in class, what was the predominant conversation around the last fear cycle apex in our society? And nobody could answer the question. And I was shocked because this event went on for 400 days. 400 days. Every single day, the same fucking thing, day in, day out, for 400 days. In actual fact, I think the actual number is 444 days. It was around that same time. Yeah, Colleen. Yeah, it was around that time. I think he was a little bit later, but I can't remember exactly. Any of you people on YouTube have any idea what I'm talking about? Bob, you already know. Were you in class yesterday? You already know this. Anyway, so, well, no. Y2K was the last greed cycle apex, Oscar. I'm talking about fear cycle apex. So we have to go back to like 1980. Oh, Bob. Oh, geez, were you there? Fuck. I remember, I was only 10 years old at the time, but I remember day after day after day watching Jimmy Carter just die on 1,000 deaths. There was nothing he could do as president of the strong country in the world. And there was nothing he could do for 400 days. And he ended up losing the election. And that was a major low point. Jim Jones was 78. Okay. Well, maybe he saw that fear apex coming and said, fuck it, man, I want to get out of here. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, point of the matter here is that I do believe that this quote-unquote crisis is going to go on through this entire year. I also find it really interesting, too, and this is just sort of a personal observation. We have, two things. First, the first conjuncture event is April. Then the next one is the middle of, the end of June, which I actually think is probably going to be the stock market counter-trend rally peak. And then we have the big one, which is in November. Oh, God. And that could be an absolute mess. Interestingly enough, our Bitcoin analogy, with this massive harmonic pattern, interesting how if we do pivot off of this, and you can see we stabbed right into that level. I guess we have to move it over there now. Interesting how that harmonic that we've been following forever, it would basically come to its fruition right at that event. So I have no idea what the hell the rest of this year looks like. I could see Bitcoin here and double, triple in value through the rest of 2020. It wouldn't surprise me. Let's put it that way. I'm worried, of course, that I don't know whether... where do we start? Okay, I want to finish off a thought that I just had there a moment ago, because I think it's actually pretty important. In 1980 fear cycle peak, we went through 444 days of Americans being paraded around the Middle East and humiliated, and it was a very negative experience. And I believe that it actually set the tone for the next 20, and really you could argue the next 40 years of U.S. foreign policy. I mean, you could make the argument that basically since that event, the United States has been basically at war in one form or another in the Middle East, and all about oil, and our whole society dominated about oil. I actually think that this conjuncture that we're going through here is actually going to set the tone for what we as humans are going to be most concerned about for like the next probably 40 years. And also, too, if we understand that the baby boomers are still, number one, they're still a huge chunk of our population. So they're floating out there. Number two, they live a hell of a lot longer now, so they're not going anywhere. And number three, to a greater extent, they still have all the money. In fact, they've got so much money, and it's sitting in savings accounts and stuff, that the higher-ups, the powers that be, are actually trying to punish them for saving so much money. And that's just a function of the market, right? The market will always inflict the most pain on the most people as much of the time as possible. So the baby boomers have all saved for retirement. They have their money in savings. So what do the banks do? Banks are going to punish them for being savers. That's the job of the market, to inflict as much pain on as much people as much of the time as possible. So it actually makes sense why interest rates are so low, because the predominant portion of our population is trying to live off of those savings. I mean, it's sad, but it's basically true. So I actually think that, and also too, you listen to the talking heads in the media and stuff, oil and the Middle East, I think, is actually going to be last century's story. That's that last cycle. And I might even argue that for the next 20, 30 years, our conversation is going to be dominated around bugs and bioweapons and screening. And, it's interesting that Shane said that this particular conjuncture, I think it's in Capricorn, but I never get those numbers right, or those names right. It's actually all about a consolidation of power. So I do believe that not only are, you can even see it now, China is basically a totalitarian dictatorship. Good old Russia and Putin. I mean, what a surprise. He's basically finessed the system to make sure that he's not going anywhere. And of course, if you say anything wrong to him, here's your one-way train ticket to the gulag. Merry Christmas. Um, and I guess what really worries me, and of all people, I guess it makes sense, is we could very easily see democracy itself come under fire here in the United States of America. It wouldn't surprise me one bit into this November conjuncture. And what a convenient excuse. Number one, this flu virus is, they've basically, the 1% has permission now to basically instill martial law. And it's a very easy step for, I think over the end of last week, Mr. Trump declared a state of emergency, which means a whole bunch of your civil liberties are going to be curtailed, and there's really nothing you can do about it. It's a very easy step for this gentleman to just simply say, look, I'm now just going to take over. He'll create some sort of crisis where Congress is like, oh my God, yes, we need you to take over. And he will be voted into a dictatorship. Let's hope that doesn't happen, but that's a very, very real possibility through this, people. Just be aware of that. I do find it interesting that the Democrats seem to be trying to coalesce around this Biden gentleman. I might make the argument that Mr. Biden is basically cut from the same cloth as Mr. Trump. Obviously a lot of people are going to take offense with that, but on balance, they're basically the same. So, ironically enough, I think the 1%, I don't know, I almost get the impression in the market that they kind of got a little bit burned by Mr. Trump, and they're actually happy if Mr. Biden does take over. And interestingly enough, again, sort of speaking to the crypto community, you guys don't even know what crypto was like, because it didn't exist before the last financial crisis. What I actually see happening in the marketplace, remember I had asked earlier, anybody in the market back in 05, 06, 07, when the first cracks started to appear, the then Secretary of Treasury was a guy by the name of Snow. And he was actually the old CEO, I think, of Alcoa. And after he left Treasury, I think he went and with a group, they went and took over Chrysler. But actually, that might have been, I might have my dates mixed up there. But I remember specifically when he was running Chrysler, so he wasn't in Treasury anymore, he had left. He went on Wall Street Week with Louis Rukeyser, and he pleaded with all the people to turn the credit markets back on. He was like pleading, which I thought was very surprising. And of course, Louis and all his buddies sort of sit around very uncomfortably on their leather couches going, as he's sort of sitting there going, for God's sakes, turn the credit markets back on. We're going bankrupt. So there were warning signs back in 2006. There was a brokerage firm by the name of Bear Stearns. I don't know whether anybody remembers Bear Stearns. But they actually, and this is why I made reference to that Wall Street Week with, whoever it is, with Bloomberg. Both of the gentlemen that this guy interviewed on the show, both of them emphatically said monetary policy is not going to solve this problem. It just isn't. And of course, you look at Japan. Japan's perfect example. And really, you might argue, and I was posting this in the lounge last night, I mean, look at the predominant trends in our society. the end of the Cold War opened up a huge labor pool, and these people work for nothing. Is that inflationary or deflationary? That's deflationary. No trade unions. Wait, is any of you people on YouTube in a trade union? I doubt it. I remember growing up, it was almost required that if you went into the workforce, you joined a union. So that's massively deflationary. And then, of course, robotics. Humans need not apply. That's massively deflationary. The irony of it all is all you crypto kids. Everybody who's a crypto fan, you have to understand, crypto is massively deflationary. If the banks switch over to using blockchain and ledger technology to track customer transactions, is there going to be a need for bank employees? No. They're probably going to fire half of their workforce. That is deflationary. So the irony of it all is that the winds of change have actually handcuffed these bankers. Because remember, bankers have to have inflation to justify their business models, right? They borrow at one rate and then they lend out to the public at a much higher rate. That's the whole yield curve, blah, blah, blah. But the implication is these are positive rates, right? They're plus signs. They're not negative signs. Ironically enough, this whole modern day banking model is based on this implicit expectation of inflation. But the world is telling us in glorious technicolor. I mean, it's funny on the videos that I do, for the crowd on a daily basis. We repeatedly look at this chart, and this is where it's really important to look at market-based data. Don't listen to some fucking banker. Don't listen to some talking head in the media. Just listen to the market. What is the market saying? And the market is saying deflation. And the irony of all of this is we listen to the bankers and they're like, well, inflation is lower than what we would like. Well, of course, because no inflation and your business model is meaningless. It's kind of like some clown sitting there mining Litecoin at $100 a coin, and the coin's sitting at like $30, $40, and you're like, why are you continuing to mine at $100? You're going to lose money. Well, it's the same thing with negative interest rates. This is going to kill the banks. So they don't want negative interest rates. They don't want deflation. So they do whatever they can possibly do to create inflation. And in this kind of environment, the only way you can really do that is you got to just print shitloads of money. But the interesting thing about that, and this is where it's coming sort of full circle, is if you are a student of the market, go and look at what Republican Treasury secretaries do. Republican, I think I put a tweet out, maybe it was a tweet or a response to somebody. And again, this is full circle. Go back and watch that Wall Street Week video that I shared with all of you. What they are saying is we need massive fiscal stimulus program. And the interesting thing is if the politicians actually get their fucking heads on straight, they can actually download this massive fiscal stimulus that is needed by the market and blame it on coronavirus. They don't even have to take the fault for this. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. And these commentators, and like I said, I thought it was a very, very good interview. They were saying, look, you can do massive injections into the healthcare industry. The healthcare industry is a mess right now in the United States. I mean, everybody knows what a corrupt system it is, and all it is just a bunch of middlemen grinding the public, and you want to go and get an x-ray and it costs you $20,000. It's like, what the fuck? So, but the point here is, there is an opportunity, in my opinion, and if somebody higher ups listens to me rant here, for God's sake, somebody call your politician and just let them know this. The economy needs fiscal stimulus, not monetary stimulus. Telling people that they can go borrow more money at a lower rate, there's nothing borrowing going on. Telling them that they can borrow money at a lower rate, that's not going to solve the problem. We need fiscal stimulus. I might make the argument that, and again, go back and watch how Paulson acted. He tried to use the existing system to correct the problem. Bear Stearns, right? Do yourself a favor after I've done my rant here today, and go and learn about Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns came about 6 months before Lehman Brothers. We all know who Lehman Brothers is, right? Probably none of you. Cheryl, do you know who Lehman Brothers are? Have you ever heard of that before? You probably never heard of Bear Stearns, but I bet you've probably heard of Lehman Brothers. Or AIG. Ever heard of a company called AIG Insurance? You lost money on Lehman, but you made money on Bear? All right. Well, but the point here, Bob, I mean, I agree with you, fool's gold, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the value of anything, of course, is in the eyes of the beholder, right? The point I'm trying to make here is that what I see Munchin, who is basically cut from the same cloth as Paulson, they're both good old Goldman Sachs boys. What a surprise. And, do yourself a favor and go look how many Goldman Sachs people run the U.S. Treasury Department. It's kind of sad, really. But his solution, which didn't work, of course, was to try and fix everything internally within the market. And I thought it was fascinating that these gentlemen that I've made reference to about this video a couple times now, both of them have said, we are now at Bear Stearns in this crisis cycle, and Lehman is coming. Now, obviously, it's not about the banking system. This is about the healthcare system. And I might argue that this first bout of chaos was the Bear Stearns equivalent, and come November, I got a feeling that's when the Lehman Brothers and the AIGs of this cycle hit. I don't know what it's going to look like. Maybe, the talk is that through the spring and the summer, this virus will calm down a little bit. But then next fall and winter, all hell's going to break loose as it comes back. So, think about that Iran crisis, 444 days through the Jupiter-Saturn fear cycle apex, which basically takes about a year to play out. I don't see any reason why we can't be in this mess for 444 days talking about coronavirus. Also, too, I will definitely make reference, I was trying to spin a lighthearted tone to this, but I don't think that actually does the community and the public a service. I should take this a little bit more seriously. Everybody knows my thoughts on, if you're older, then obviously you're in a bit more dangerous category. If you're younger, it's not that serious of an illness. Doesn't mean you can't get sick and pass away. Don't get me wrong, but I'll refrain from using, titles like beer flu and stuff like that, and, speak a little more seriously. But I wouldn't be surprised if this crisis, quote unquote, actually goes right on through the full calendar year. This isn't going anywhere. So, and I do believe that, every economic cycle has to end with a recession. Usually stock market loses about 50% of its value through recessions. All the pieces, in my opinion, are being put into place that this will be just very similar to all the previous ones. And I also think that the conversation in our society was dominated for the past 40 years about oil. I don't think that oil actually is going to be a front page conversation. I wouldn't be surprised in 20, 30 years we go back to looking at oil and the Arabs running around the desert on their camels and back to those kind of days, and oil's maybe like $5 a barrel or something like that. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. Wow, that sure was a rant. I was not expecting to go down that rabbit hole this morning. Weren't we supposed to be talking about crypto? Sorry, everyone. I hope you all got some value out of that. And again, remember, the amount of value you get out of this video, these free videos, is actually directly commensurate to how much you actually have to pay for these videos. So I don't understand why people downvote these videos, because it's not like I'm charging you any money to watch this shit. I don't get that. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. They're just big meanies. That's all they are. Anyway, back to the corn. And as I had sort of said, oh, okay, that's cool. The people in the lounge, they seem to have liked my rant here today, so that's good. Yeah, actually interesting, Colleen, expecting to go into renewables. What I thought was really interesting was, and actually I never finished that thought about Paulson, did I? Should I go back into that? So Munchin is doing exactly the same things I watched Paulson do. Paulson was Junior Bush's, and the crisis just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until ultimately the Republicans were just run out of town. And then, and this is the thing that I'm trying to convey to you guys, the Obama was elected. And I can't even remember the name of his Secretary of Treasury. It was just this young guy. And when he was appointed, everybody went, whoa, what the fuck? Why is this young guy being put in there? But it turns out that Bernanke was running the show. So I think that's why they had this young guy as Treasury Secretary. He was just a yes man and nothing more. But the point is that once they made the transition from the Republican-controlled presidency back to the Democrats, instantly all of how do we say this? Quantitative easing could actually be floated. Because keep in mind, quantitative easing is nothing more than socialism. That's what quantitative easing is. It's, the irony of it all is you guys in crypto already know about socialism. Has any of you ever had to go through socialized losses? Anybody? That could be interesting. How about you guys in the hangout here? You guys, any of you had to go through socialized losses? Really, and over on YouTube, any of you people, have you ever gone through socialized losses? So the irony of it all is that the crypto community actually is doing exactly the same thing that the Treasury. You could actually make the argument that the crypto community is no different than what they do in the broader economy. It's exactly the same thing. So you could make the argument that in essence the dilution of the currency, quantitative easing, is nothing more than just socialism. They are socializing the losses. How do you socialize losses in this world? Well, you just print more debt, i.e. dilute your currency. The purchasing power of the currency is diminished. Everybody understands that. And the old debts are paid with new money printed. Now, what's the one thing in this world that ought to do well in that type of environment? There is another thing that should do well. But there is one thing in very particular that has done very, very well through this socialized losses type of environment. Does anybody know what that is? Well, actually, it got its start right around the time when this quantitative easing got started. Hint, 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 hint. Hint, 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 hint. It tastes great. Especially on toast. Bitcoin! Can't wait. Doge, yeah, of course, Doge. Right? If anything, what you crypto enthusiasts want to see, And ironically enough, Mr. Trump, in a weird sort of way, he has publicly said that he doesn't like Bitcoin. Is that a front and he's actually doing shit in behind? I don't know. Frankly speaking, I think we actually give this guy credit for being a lot smarter than he actually is. I don't actually think he's that smart. We come up with all these conspiracy this, conspiracy that kind of stuff. Frankly speaking, I don't think he's really that smart. He's almost like a day-to-day kind of guy. Okay, I see this in front of me today. Okay, this is how I respond. I really don't think he's that intelligent. So it kind of makes sense. I love the U.S. dollar, blah, 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 that he and his cronies whack Bitcoin. I think it makes absolute sense. And what's really interesting is you guys over on YouTube and even in the lounge here, is there a gentleman that was sort of suggesting on social media and stuff that really we should be thinking 2021 for sort of big Bitcoin and crypto rallies? Does that ring a bell with anybody? I think his name was Benjamin, something like that. I was chatting about his videos and stuff like that. And according to all his... not that guy. Benjamin Cohen, is that his name? Dav. Yeah. Poor old Dav and his silver, eh? I love Dav. I think he's a great guy. He's got a beautiful heart. But there is a great analogy. Everybody's like, oh, buy your gold, buy your silver. Financial asset crisis comes, you'll do fine. And I don't know, has anybody looked at a price of silver lately? It's getting absolutely destroyed here. I think, I've tried, through the education programs, I tried to convince people that in a recession, everything goes down. Including gold and silver. And you often get a situation in the market, because remember, falling stock prices are deflationary, they're not inflationary. So you often get a situation in the stock market, if stocks are collapsing, that people are scrambling for anything to sell to raise cash. And quite often they look at the gold and go, fuck man, I can raise some cash there, let's hit the bid. And that's exactly what I see happening in the gold and silver right now, which is so sad, because people, they convince themselves that for some reason gold and silver are actually the perfect hedge, and that if the stock market crashes, that's a good place to be in. And I can tell you, 30 years of this game, that's not the case. Gold and silver do well when there is a base, a floor in the market, and people have confidence in the market, and then they go, all right, well, I'll buy a little bit of gold and silver as an inflation hedge. But that only happens after the base has been established. And so if we think about it, who knows how this election's going to play out? Nobody knows. But if the scenario plays out that the market is weak into the election, I think Mr. Trump's going to have a very, very hard time getting reelected. If they somehow bring this market back and it was all smoke and mirrors and the economy and the stock market is booming into the election, then I think he walks back into office. But I'll tell you, just judging by what I'm seeing here, I think the odds are diminishing for him on a daily basis. But what I do like is the idea that the economy and the market is going to be extremely weak. It's coronavirus related. The politicians can actually kick the can. They can actually say, look, it's not our fault. We are in a national health emergency. Please approve $1 trillion coronavirus emergency fund. Does anybody know what the emergency fund was called through the housing market crisis? Be interesting to see if any of you even remember this. Anyone? Excellent, Rob, but you're so smart. It doesn't surprise me that you know this. Anyone? Hey, you guys over there on YouTube talking about gold. Holy fuck. Look at these gold charts. I mean, this is fucking a nightmare. All those poor little leveraged traders. I showed you all this chart. What are you supposed to think if you ever see the market smiling at you? That is not a market that you want to be bullish. Alright, you guys were over there talking about gold over on YouTube, and so I got distracted. What was the question I was asking? Do not. When you see the market smiling at you, that is a major warning sign. Oh, that's what it was. What was the name of the last bailout program? And what did TARP stand for? Right? Treasury Asset Repurchase Program or something like that, right? Could they come up with a fancy schmancy name? And what I think is going to have to happen here is a lot of the U.S. oil industry is going to have to be bailed out. You know, we talked recently about well, actually, I don't even think maybe I talked probably through the free videos, Monday to Friday. But I think what ended up happening here recently, and actually go watch that video, because that video, that Wall Street Week video, they talked about it as well. And they even interviewed a very respected oil analyst in that video. Tell you, man. In fact, you know what? I think I'm going to put that video. I don't know whether I'm allowed to do that or not, but I'm going to put that video in the comments, because anybody who is watching this video today here, I think your assignment, and let's see if anybody actually does it. I'm going to put, we're going to call this your homework. Must watch this video and tell me what was the reason behind Saudi Russia. Of course I can't spell. How do you spell Saudi Arabia? Anyway, Saudi Russia spat. And we will put in that. So, yeah, that's what you get for listening, Bob. That asshole Beamer's giving me homework on the weekend. Come on. All right. This is kind of like a double-edged whammy, unfortunately. But I think what happened there with the oil was the Americans, the shale oil industry, is just eating the Arabs and the Russians' lunch. And so I believe that they sort of painted it like, hey, we're going to have a spat with each other. But really what's going on here is Russia and Saudi Arabia are trying desperately to put the U.S. Shale oil business out of business. And I've also told you, what do you think the prospects of the Canadian tar sands business? Oh my God, what a fucking nightmare. It's so depressing thinking about the fate for Canada here going forward, I'll tell you. So, is that inflationary or deflationary if now we have a price war going on in the oil business? Obviously, that's deflationary. But these upcoming financial crisis and all this kind of stuff, and this is what I was talking about here with this is actually what I think is going to be the big problem here. From what I understand, in the United States of America, the corporate bond market has just absolutely exploded in size over the past 10, 15 years. And what's worse about what this shale oil business in the U.S. is that almost all of this was financed through debt. And this is not good quality debt. This is really cheap, like, triple B rated, just right on the border of junk status debt. And I watched, watched that Wall Street Week video. I have seen a couple other videos. the U.S. shale oil people are scared. And ironically enough, the only thing that's really going to save them at this point is the dreaded B word. Does anybody know what the dreaded B word is? The ruthless capitalists hate the dreaded B word. There you go. No, B, not D. Hey, if it isn't a B, then it will be a D. Because, and I suppose also, too, you could throw in bankruptcy in there. You know, you listen to that video, and it's really interesting. The interviewer says, the major oil companies, they're actually doing pretty good. They've got relatively healthy balance sheets like ExxonMobil and all those, ConocoPhillips and stuff. In fact, actually, there was a big corporate raider dude who went and just took another huge position in one of these big oil companies. But have any of you noticed, and I thought this was really interesting, are oil companies calling themselves oil companies anymore? Have you noticed this? And actually, it was something that actually surprised me, but I went, oh shit, you're right. Again, watch that fucking Wall Street Week video. She nailed it. Oil companies are not calling themselves oil companies anymore. They're calling themselves energy companies, which I find fascinating. So the underlying question here becomes, yes, these major oil companies, their balance sheets are relatively healthy, but are they going to go in and, the hope is that this shale oil industry consolidates, right? Which means, bigger companies come out, take out lower companies, might take over their inventories, blah, blah, blah. But their speculation is, these major oil companies, they're not really too enthusiastic about going and buying more oil. In fact, they're kind of moving away from the oil business, which makes sense because, you want to survive? And then, of course, you think Brian's 17-and-a-half-year fear-greed cycles. Hate to say it, guys, I think I've said repeatedly in the public, I am not a commodity bull anymore. No more bull. There's got to be a joke in there somewhere. So I do like the idea, if you can, things like alternative energies and stuff like that, if you're interested in investing in those. But investing in oil is, as somebody just said here in the lounge, oil is almost like a 4-letter word now. It's dirty. It's politically incorrect. So are these oil companies, these big major oil companies that are not oil companies anymore, they're energy companies, are they likely to go and bail out this shale business? Not likely. So ironically enough, I think what ends up happening here, this coming recession, and it was, and in that video too, they also made an excellent analogy. In 1986, then Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush, you guys ever heard of him? He went to the Saudis and he said, if you do this, they literally took oil, they collapsed the oil price in 1986. And he said, if you keep oil prices here, you are going to bankrupt the state of Texas. And a huge part of all of my oil cronies out of Texas. And that's exactly what happened. So be prepared that we may see, for the next few years, a continuing theme about bankruptcies within the oil industry within the United States. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. It's going to get ugly out there, folks. Anyway, so the point I was trying to make here is the actual final shoe to drop, because we live in this debt world, the final shoe to drop will be when the bond market and when the debt people start freaking out. We saw that to a little degree here in the past week. And then, as I've said repeatedly of late, we won't know that there's a bottom in the market until these people, this clown and the Federal Reserve Board down in the States say, all right, enough down, floors in, and they went into the money market and they injected I think it was like $1.5 trillion into the money market to try and shore up any sort of demand. $1.5 trillion. Where did they come up with that money? Oh, we just printed it. Oh, fuck. It's just some database. Just go in and add another zero, and there you go. Done. What do you think that kind of environment does for the value of the U.S. dollar? So we can already start to see that almost quantitative easing shit starting again. It'll be interesting to see whether these clowns follow the same route as Paulson. Like I said, Paulson tried desperately not to go down that road and tried desperately to get the market to fix the problems with Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, AIG, etc. And that just did not work at all. Maybe they've learned from history and they just said, look, we got to step in front of this now and put some sort of floor in the market. To me, that almost feels like a short-term kind of bandage. And as I said, watch that Wall Street week video. What you will see is that the people that are running the show are starting to see the cracks in the system. If anything, if you are trading this market, there's probably going to be a nice little rally coming out the other side of this April pivot. There's not a hell of a lot to do. I don't think it's a good idea to take big risks until we get on the other side of that pivot. And so as a result, it's very difficult for me to sit here and load up this video and wonder what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. Because do I have a setup here? Well, if you bought against these original lows, Wyckoff check of the trend line, 78.6 is blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. But that's a very, very advanced trade, which I don't think a lot of the people in the public, I don't even think it's in your best interest to try and trade like this because it's very, very high anxiety. You got to have at least a couple of years under your belt at TRI to try and make darn sure you can handle the anxiety around this kind of trade. For the public, and this is what I've been basically saying, is probably these windows, you see how long that last bottom in Ethereum took. You see how long that last top in Ethereum took. My hunch is this bottom will probably look something along those same lines. The level oneers. Let's see if anybody can actually answer this question. Do we have any signs of confirmed bullish divergence on any of the indicators here? Hey, where's that Eddie guy? Wasn't he in the call here? You were a level oneer. Where is that Eddie guy? I thought his name was Eddie. There he is. E-D-Y. That might be Edie. Might be a lady. Eddie, are you still here? Good. Everybody on YouTube. Nope. Good. Well, at least you guys are learning. That's encouraging. So, and unfortunately in this case, those people that bought the original market structure, they were told, nope, sorry, you're wrong. So like I said, the Bitcoin one, you look like a genius right now. Ooh, look how smart I am. But a trader's trade, this is a tough trade, guys. And, as we see, there are no signs of divergence here. We could make the argument location. I don't know whether have I talked to YouTubers about 4.669s. It's kind of a funny chaos level that we sort of stumbled upon. And ironically enough, you can actually see that, yep, the market was interested in that level. But, for the new people to trading, try and keep this as absolutely as low anxiety as possible. I like for you to wait for 3 reasons to justify taking a trade. Location is a great reason. It should be our first reason, and it's the most important. You know, you're definitely not coming in and chasing an up market here. That's good. We have broken to new lows. That's not so good. And if anything, what I'm worried about for something like an Ethereum is with the break of this low, do we have to do a big AB equals CD down into here? It's totally possible. Market do any old damn thing it wants. So, you know, for new people to trading on something like an Ethereum, I've got to say, look, we just broke structure. So it's not like we're in a range anymore. I mean, we're actually pointing lower. We have lots and lots of M's in the volume pattern here. So you can't make an argument buyers are overwhelming sellers. If anything, sellers are overwhelming buyers. We have no signs of divergence, and we certainly don't have any confirmed divergences. So we just got to cool our jets there. I suppose one good sign is momentum indicators like RSI did go oversold. And I do have an indicator that I built years and years ago that helps me see overbought and oversold. So he is actually interesting. He's actually dipped out of stupidly oversold. So he's not even stupidly oversold anymore now. And, you know, I think I did video sort of walkthroughs of how I would use RSI to sort of determine trend and what stage of the trend we're in. And right now, this is looking very sort of purpley, right? Break the top, that's the blue, then yellow through the 50 line. That's sort of your super trend signal. And, of course, that had you going short through here. Woo, big dump. But now, and actually maybe that's even yellow. I think that's probably the yellow one there. And now, on this move here, that's probably your purple. This is now what I would consider, this is the noobs are all getting bearish. And just as the first W breaks the bear, if we get any kind of W in here, that's going to bust out these noobs. And it just simply means, look at the bear slides over, slow down. We don't have the W yet, but you can see there's a bit of a fight going on here right at this level. So, I mean, you know, like I want to sit here and go, yeah, Bitcoin's putting up, woohoo, party. But I don't have anything out of Bitcoin yet. Like I said, we don't have any divergences. Yes, we have an interesting location. Let's wait for divergence. Then let's wait for some structure. And then we can start thinking about risking our hard-earned money. Right now, it's just dead cat bouncy. Bottom end of the range is 3 and change. Top of the range is 6. What a surprise. That's just about 50%. Guess maybe a little bit less. Couple grand trading range. You can see 13 EMA is screaming down here as fast as it can. It's right now at 7,000. My hunch is if this actually confirms bull, this will create a little bit of a flag pull. So we go down to like an hourly. And it's hard to see with these boxes, this color. We might flag our way out here. Boobity-boo. AB. Let's maybe make that orange. CD. All right, so right up, let's even make note of that. Right up there. See how that's a 200 period moving average off of this hourly chart. And notice, oops, maybe. Got my head on straight. Oh, look at that. That's cool how that happens, eh? So we know that 13 EMA acts as sort of the mean, right? The check. I'm a bull, check 13 EMA, check 13 EMA, check 13 EMA. Uh-oh, check 13 EMA. I'm down. Ah, crap. Check EMA. Okay, we got to try and get back above here. Nope. See you later. check EMA. I'm now a bear. I've got M's working. Check EMA. Oh, still a bear. So what a surprise. If we do actually AB equals CD our way out, all we're going to do is we're just going to rally back up to 13 EMA, which should act as a bit of a buffer. I mean, what a surprise. Shouldn't shock anybody to see that. Is there a trade here? No. Based on our 3-step setup, the simplest model that I can teach you guys in the public to sort of keep the anxiety as low as possible. We want to see signs of indicator divergence, ideally confirmation that we are indeed heading up, W's and RSIs, trendline breaks, divergences in MACD, maybe even big fat W's in volume. Wouldn't that be great? And we're not getting any of that right now. So it's sort of like, okay, I'm going to load up this video today. What the hell do I talk to you guys about? And I don't see that on anything right now. Right? I see that. And interestingly enough, this actually sets up what we call one of those bull-bear battle lines. So all those people that are sort of watching off of lower time frames, you can see the fight here, right? So this is assuming that the bulls win the fight. But we could very easily just say, okay, there is the top end of the range. There is the bottom end of the range. Whoever wins this fight is going to carry the day. If the bulls win the fight, then yeah, there's that 13 EMA on the dailies, 200 SMA on the hourlies, AB equals CD objectives. That's completely realistic. If the bears win the fight, then we're probably going to have to test these lows. And then, maybe that creates the divergence that we need to see on those higher time frames to start marking the bottom. Which, on balance, that's what I would be thinking here over the next week or two. If this is actually the bottom. My hunch is they're probably going to take this thing up, and then there's going to be another big washout probably into next weekend. Anyway, point here is that if we go back to those daily charts, this is actually really easy for you to do. You can create these little bull-bear battle line studies. And actually, I think I might even go off of here. Where we have this low, rally peak, in essence, this bar, and this bar. And actually, this would be interesting. Anybody know what this pattern is here? Probably not, but it's tough to see because this high's up here. But really, you could make the argument that this is a de facto diamond. Something like there to there, there to there, and there to there. I mean, it's messy, don't get me wrong. And there to there. So we set up these sort of like little fights, right? And probably off the 4 hours, there's probably some pivot somewhere in there. So we have one of these sort of bull-bear battle zones. This is really easy. I mean, you want to okay, when are we bullish? When are we bearish? If we trade up through this high, that creates a fractal off of these 3 lows. Bullish sign, probably heading back up to 13 EMAs. And think look left, right? If we can get back up into this price action, then odds are there's not a hell of a lot of resistance, right? It's just a big zip. Unfortunately, though, what did we do yesterday? Who can tell me what this 2-bar pattern is? Boom, boom. What do we call this bar right here? Thank you. Inside the bar. Is that Romanian? Is that how they say it? I don't know whether you guys know this on YouTube or not. You may not. But if we lose this low, this actually becomes an inside bar failure, and that's a sell signal. So you can see the fight that's going on here today. And actually, I think I remember, didn't we have we had one of these bull-bear battles, and I don't know whether it was off the corn, and this bar inside here made a doji. It was just sort of like everybody stopped. And so that's basically what I see happening here. Everybody has just sort of stopped. And it makes sense, because here we are at about 12:30 on a Sunday. What do you think the world is waiting for to actually decide what the hell's going to happen next? obviously they're waiting for the futures, the gold, the stock markets, the currency markets, all the forex trading desks. Everybody's sort of waiting with sort of bated breath. Okay, what the hell's going to happen next? And really, I think you could actually probably discern what's going to happen next just based off of which way the corn breaks here. It might actually be a really good leading indicator too. So there you go. You want something to watch over the short term? I think we have a nice little bull-bear battle going on here. I'm not going to touch that one. So it's been kind of a fun rant here today. I don't know whether anybody really got any value out of this or not. It's awfully tough when we're in a shitty market to sit and do these videos and, you know, everybody's all rah-rah enthusiastic. I mean, these are challenging times. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I do think, you know, for the public, it's in your best interest to think about that sort of three-step setup. And, you know, last winter there, we had a great, you can even see it in RSI. We had just the most beautiful example of location, divergence, whether it be MACD histogram or RSI, structure, beautiful trade. That's really what I'd like to see coming out of this April apex pivot, March, April, I guess. I think it's going to take some time. I wouldn't be in a really big hurry. And go slow. Remember, this is your hard-earned money. That's the weird part about the trading business. Is I used to remember people, they would open up an account, they deposit money in the account, they go, okay, what do I buy? Okay, what do I buy? What do I buy? What do I buy? What do I buy? And it's like, well, why not just leave it in cash? And this is what used to piss me off. Is they go, well, Brian, if you don't have something I want to buy, cut me a check because I got other places I can spend this money. It's like, oh, you fucking idiot. And it just drives you nuts. So that was one of the reasons why I got out of the brokerage business. Is, you know, unfortunately, it's their money. It's not your money. And the public, they never learn, right? They never, ever learn. So remember, at the end of the day, the only power that you have, and you are a very powerful person, Cheryl Ann, you are a rock star. You're buying Boeing? Oh, fuck, I don't know about that, man. You're crazy. Long-range crypto? I suppose so. I mean, I don't know. I suppose, you know, can we justify starting another war for... I mean, we'll take a look at Boeing. Actually, it's not a terrible idea. That's an hourly chart, though, so be careful. I mean, do we have trade location? Gee whiz. How far do you have to go back? I suppose. Actually, this is interesting because I remember when this breakout happened. I suppose you could make an argument. Where is the point of control? There's probably value players, right? Can you imagine, everybody? There's probably just and actually this is the same thing as what just Bitcoin just did, is there is a shitload of open orders sitting at that level, and they're just waiting desperately to get filled, and they had to wait a long time, but ding 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 ding, they just got some fills, didn't they? You know, for an investor, who asked this? Long-range crypto. Do we have any signs of divergence here? Yeah, I would argue, right, Bob? As soon as the bullets start flying, and the interesting thing is, and this is why I kind of think you can't really make that sort of Middle East oil story anymore. That was last cycle. This cycle is going to be all about getting sick and the aged. Ironically enough, I actually think it's going to be really hard to justify actual shooting war now, right? Did you guys notice, I don't know whether any of you guys noticed this, but there was a gentleman who was like the Prime Minister of Sudan or something, and I kind of made a joke about this a week or two ago on the Daily Brief videos, recaps. there was the Prime Minister of Sudan said, "Oh, I was the subject of a terror attack. Oh, terrorism." And not a fucking single person even gave a shit. Nobody cared. I actually think war on terror, all that kind of stuff, that's the old story. That's looking backwards. And so I don't know if it's going to be tough for these governments and countries to really justify shooting wars now. I don't know. It's going to be tough. I think the conversation has changed. That's old cycle. And, you could make an argument that the war is going to be the war on viruses. Can you see it coming? I can see it coming. The whole fucking world's going to go apeshit on the war on viruses. I can see it coming. Sounds absolutely perfect to me. All right, so with regard to your Boeing here, I suppose if you're a value player, you can see where the POC is. At some point, are they going to bring the market back to fill in all these gaps? Probably. My hunch is, the way that I would prefer to play this is through the options market. And then that way, if you go buy a call and all hell breaks loose and this thing goes right off the board, who knows why, right? At least the maximum you lose is just the purchase price of the option. There are a number. Right now at TRI, we're kicking around whether we should go pick up some of this Carnival. And you can see I run a very specific options model that prices derivatives products and sort of screens for implied volatility. And the options markets now are telling me actually this is worth a risk. So no doubt about it. And then also, for you crypto people, and really I didn't want to talk about stock market today. I don't know why I'm doing this, but anyway, I'm very interested in this company. This is a bank that its only purpose in life is to service the crypto industry. And they announced that they have something like 850 corporate clients now. They are building out a pretty powerful business model here. And the interesting thing about this stock is it's actually trading below the cash that they have on the books. If you want to talk about a no-brainer investment, think of it this way. There's only 19 million shares on this thing. Some corporate raider could come along, just buy this stock outright below $10, put the bank out of business. We are officially going out of business. We close shop. And he just pockets the $10.50 in cash on the books. That's the easiest 10-15% return you ever made on your money. It's a steal. So that's how I wouldn't be concentrating on the Boeings, but I would be concentrating on seeing if I can get in on next cycle's big growth names. Long range crypto. Mr. Long Range Crypto, think crypto. Don't lose your focus through this. Fuck the Boeings. Excuse my French. I'm sure gonna get a lot of algorithms just went ching 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 ching. Kill that guy, kill that guy, kill that guy. Oh, here comes the Tomahawk missile. What a coincidence. But try and think of taking advantage of this irrationality to go and find value in next cycle's growth stories. Because remember, everybody, we're heading into a growth cycle. And the irony of it all, massive monetary stimulus. A big, massive fiscal stimulus program's coming. We, just like 444 days of watching Americans being paraded around Tehran. It was a crisis, but was it a business crisis? Were the banks in trouble and going bankrupt? No. It was a societal sentiment crisis. Once the sentiment crisis passed, the U.S. economy went absolutely insane growth in the early 1980s. Does anybody remember the early 1980s? I remember I lived in L.A. through the L.A. Olympics in '84. It was grow, 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 grow. And so that's what I want you thinking about the next 4 or 5 or 6 years down the road. See if you can identify, especially if you can buy these goddamn stocks below the cash that's on the books. They're giving the stock away. But can you identify stocks that are in the growth sectors for the next cycle? I.e., I love this Silvergate. And FYI, I did go and buy some last week. Oops. So I'm feeling pretty happy here. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave the video at that for today. I've been talking now for, about 2 hours or something? I sure hope you guys got some value out of this. Remember, the value of the Bob, you're on the site. I mean, we've looked at this stock extensively. So, yeah. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it at that for today. As I had sort of said, and you can see off this 4-hour casino chart, basically I've got a trading range established. We break out through the top, then I'm thinking 7 and change, which would also make sense too. Good old 50% rule sitting at 7,200, 13 period EMA on dailies, blah, blah, blah. If we roll over and we lose this range munch, as wicks and tails like to be eaten, we're going to dump. So, as it's probably, Colleen, there's no hurry in any of this shit. My hunch is we're probably, in fact, I think, I don't want to keep talking here. I've got to wind this up. So, let's watch for these marks. The interesting thing is there's so much price volatility, even off of lower time frames, you could probably make some money trading this stuff. But go slowly, everybody. Remember, it's your money. Remember, and actually, that's the theme I wanted to leave this video off on. Cheryl Ann, your money in your pocket, that's your power in the marketplace. Once you've spent your money, you no longer have any more power. So covet that power. That power is extremely valuable. And really pick and choose where you want to put your money to work. Take some time. There's no hurry here. Try and have a rational thinking to this. What's the value behind this asset that I'm buying? Is there any value behind this asset I'm buying? How do I figure out what the value of this asset is that I'm buying? On the site, we have deep value screens, WDBs, that we use for our options writing modules. They're screaming a lot of really interesting value names right now in the stock market. In crypto, POW. It's the easiest way to keep you out of trouble. What is the cost of production for these coins? At that point, then we pull up the price charts. Do we see location? Do we see indicator confirmation? Do we see price structure? And go. And that's really what I would suggest all of us do. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Wish me luck with Liam. Oh, my goodness. Thursday, I had probably the most insane day I've ever... no, I'm not going to say the most. I remember a couple other days that were just even crazier. But Thursday, I had an absolutely remarkable experience with my son. He is severely autistic. He's low functioning. And I think that he is actually living. He actually feels this collective anxiety that's going around our society right now. He doesn't give a shit about the markets. He doesn't give a shit about money. He's an excellent sort of litmus test for sentiment in a weird sort of way. If people are really stressed around him, he is really stressed. If people are really relaxed, he is relaxed. And I'll tell you, Liam is right off the top right now. And that scares me. Because it's tough being a supporter for somebody who is basically insane and does things that you just can't possibly comprehend. You just go, I can't believe that happened. So wish me luck. And I've often told people this. You ever think you got yourself a tough life? And you need a shoulder to cry on, go, you know what, maybe my life isn't so bad. Come and just talk to me for a half an hour. I'll tell you a story. By the end of it, I pretty much guarantee you will be in tears. The only way that I survive and I can keep going day in, day out is I desperately hold on to that idea that, hey, if we make a positive difference in this world, then there's something that's reverberating and it actually gives your life some meaning. Nothing else matters. Money doesn't matter. Physical wealth doesn't matter. It's I tell you, you go, you take a trip down the road that I've journeyed, and you really learn about how the fact that physical assets and all that kind of stuff, it's meaningless. So wish me luck with Liam. PMA for the win. The markets are going to do what the markets are going to do. It's 2020. Go slowly. Try and build a plan. The whole purpose of the plan is to reduce anxiety, clearly articulate how you're going to risk your money, how you're going to define whether the market validated you're right or whether the market told you were wrong. And for God's sakes, people, please take appropriate risks. All right, everybody, all the best, and bye for now.